Stop overpaying when you're buying properties. Right now it's July 2026 and this is the best time to buy properties but the worst time to sell. But in this video I'm going to show you how you can buy properties for less than they're worth. It's something called below market value. And it's a strategy that I've used over the last 7 years to buy properties like this. I bought this property for £85,000 but it was actually worth £120,000, meaning it's 35 grand below market value. And I'm going to show you the exact strategy that I use to secure below market value properties in this video. So I'm here, I've got my tray, and I'm ready to give you some game. Where I see most people going wrong is they don't actually understand what the true market value of a property is right now. So it's impossible for them to find a below market value property if they don't know how much a property is actually worth as it is. So that's where we're going to start. This is a valuable skill that you're going to learn right now. So what you need to do is you need to go to Rightmove sold prices. And we're going to analyze a deal today. This property is actually a property that I used to own. It was just the first property that I ever bought. And I actually sold this property to my friend because it was a great property and I made money from it, but I wanted it to run it as a HMO, but I couldn't get it planning permission on this property. So you can see here, it's 47 Waterloo Promenade. I purchased it back in 2017 for 125 grand. I then refinanced it a year later for 150, but I ended up selling it to my mate for 158, okay? So let's take a look. It's a 4-bedroom terrace property, and let's see the photos. So you can see this is the condition when I sold the property. Pretty bad, right? Sorry, friend, for selling you such an ugly property. But anyway, let's take a look, guys. So you can see the condition, because this is one of the things that we do need to look at when we're finding out the value of a property. We look at the condition of the property. So you can see that, yes, it's got some ugly furniture in there, but the condition's actually not that bad. So this one, I sold it in 2021 for 158, but let's see how much it's going to be worth right now. That's what we need to determine. So how you do that is you have a look on similar properties that have sold. Now, we've got it on this area only. We are going to change that in a second because I don't believe there's any recently sold properties in Waterloo Promenade. The most recent sold one was £161,000 and that was back in 2022. So that was a good 4 years ago. So all you need to do, guys, is you go on a quarter of a mile. And just remember, it's a 4-bedroom terrace property. That's what we're trying to find, a comparable. A comparable just means a similar sold property that's recently sold, okay? So we can see here, 3-bed, a 2-bed flat, a 2-bed flat, a 2-bed terraced. No, 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 no. We've got a 3-bed terraced here. No, we want to find a 4-bedroom terraced. So you just keep going. We've got a 5-bedroom semi-detached. No. So you just keep on looking, guys, until you find a similar property. If it is taking you too long and you're getting frustrated, then you can have a look on this. You can filter it to terrace. I'm not going to do that. I usually don't do that. So we've got a 6-bedroom terraced here. That will definitely be a HMO. Sold back in 2024 for 180. So we're not going to look at that though, guys, because this one is only a 4-bed. Got a 4-bedroom semi-detached, 226, 3-bedroom terraced, 6-bedroom semi-detached. Okay, here we go, guys. We've got a 4-bedroom terrace property that sold in 2024 for 225. So that's a good indicator of the value of the property right now. However, let's take a further look because this property, it could be a HMO. Now, the one that I sold and the one I owned, it was not a HMO property. Okay, so let's take a look. I mean, it's in very nice condition. It doesn't necessarily look like a HMO, but you never know. What you would do if you really wanted to be sure is you would email the council and you would ask them, is this property a HMO property that with a license? Or you would look on the HMO register and see, does this property have a HMO license on it? Yes or no? and that would give you a good indication of is it a HMO or not. Because if it is a HMO, then it's going to be worth more money, okay? But let's just presume that we've taken a look at this property and it wasn't a HMO, and we know that it sold for 225 a couple of years ago. That is actually a direct comparable, all right, to 47 Waterloo Promenade. So we've got a value here of 225. Now, the other thing you can do, guys, is you want to check something, okay? And it's something very important. It's called the EPC. So I'm going to take the address right here. Then we're going to go to EPC checker, find an energy certificate. We're going to go a domestic property. We're going to type in the postcode, NG7 4BQ. Then we're going to find number 41. We're going to click on it. And it's going to tell us a very vital piece of information, which is how big is the property? 106 square meters. So I'm going to assume you've done your due diligence and you've found out that this property is not a HMO. So you know that there's a property that's a 4-bedroom terraced house that's 106 square meters that's recently sold over the last couple of years. But what I want you to do is just go on your notes and write that down. Then we're going to go back to the original property in question, which was 47 Waterloo Promenade. Then we're going to click into this one. We're going to grab the postcode. We're going to go back to the EPC checker. We're going to run a new test to find the EPC of 47 Waterloo Promenade. And we're going to see how big Waterloo Promenade is. So 93 square meters. So 41 Southie Street was 106 square meters. 47 Waterloo Promenade was 93 square meters. So they are a very similar size. You know, we're talking around 10% different. So 41 Southie Street sold for 225. Now, to me, that is a direct comparable. As long as you've checked and made sure that it's not a HMO, because as I said, that can affect the value. To me, that's indicating that this property, you'd be looking to get it valued roughly around £220,000. Because of course, that was back in 2024. Now prices have pretty much stayed the same, you know, since then. So that's how you determine the true value of a property. So we know that Waterloo Promenade now should be worth about 220. So we've taken this piece of information and now we want to work out if you was to buy 47 Waterloo Promenade. So if I was to buy it back from my friend, he's a right type there, so I know he won't be selling it. But anyway, if I was to buy it, I know its true value. So I know how much it's worth right now, 220. So if I wanted to buy it below market value, I would then be working backwards. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to buy this property for £50,000 below market value. It's simple. All I do is I go to my calculator and I do £220,000, take 50,000. That gives me £170,000. So if I wanted to buy this property for 50 grand below market value, I'd have to pay 170 for this property. So if I wanted to buy it 20 grand below market value, I just pay 200 grand. If I wanted to buy it 40 grand below market value, I buy it for 180 grand. So it's as simple as that, guys. And you can look at it in the percentage as well. So you can say, if you wanted to buy this property for 20% below market value, then this is how I do the calculation. You take what it's worth right now, so roughly 220, and you want to divide that by 100 and then times it by 20. And that gives you £44,000. So that means that, you know, if you was to buy it for 176, that means you'll be buying it for 20% below market value. That is how you do it, guys. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to tell you guys practically how you can secure these kind of deals that are actually below market value. So now you know how to find the market value, you know how to calculate it. Now I'm going to show you the strategy that I use to buy below market value. Let's get into it. There's two main ways I buy below market value properties, and it's also how I show my students how to do it as well. Now, one thing I realize is that the level of intensity that I bring to business is completely different from most people. I'm very intense. I'm very obsessed with whatever I do in business. I sink my teeth into it and I just go all out. So for me, this was never a problem that I had. However, from coaching like hundreds of students to do BRR and buy properties, I've learned that a lot of people, they don't understand the level of intensity required to really secure some of the best deals that you would ever find. What it is, guys, is you have to bang out a load of viewings. Okay, you have to do a lot of viewings. And when I'm telling you a lot, I always say to my students, I want them to aim for like 30 to 40 viewings every month. Now, for me, that's quite low. There was times where I literally would view, 50, 60 houses in a month, and I probably felt like I wanted to do more. I was very hungry, driven, and motivated. And I'll just give you an example. That first property that we looked at, 47 Waterloo Promenade, right here, that I'm showing on the screen right here, this one, I viewed literally 30 properties before I bought this one. Now, this one was worth 150 grand when I bought it, but I bought it for 125 grand. And that was my first purchase. So what that meant for me was that I made 25 grand in equity from day one. Just from owning that property, I'd made equity. And that is the beautiful thing, guys. And that's the first thing that you're going to need to do, is get into the mindset of viewing a lot of properties. Now, you don't need to view them yourself if you're working a full-time job, just like I was. I actually used to do all my viewings in the evenings and on the weekends, and I still managed to get a lot of viewings done. But say, for example, if you would just rather pay to get them done, the viewings, you can use a company called Viewbar. So I'm going to show you Viewbar right now on screen. This is it, guys. It shows you how to do it. It's super simple, guys. You just literally pay someone on Viewbar to go and view the property on your behalf. Usually it's about between £40 to £70 per viewing. And what they'll do, guys, is they'll actually send you like a very good quality video and photos. And if you have any specific requests, like say, for example, you want to see the road that the property is situated on, you want to see the neighborhood, they'll also send you a video of that as well. So it is a great tool, especially for people that are too busy to do the actual viewings or they just can't be asked. You want to do a lot of viewings, guys, and that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to make a lot of lowball offers. So say, for example, you view 10 properties, you really want to be offering on 6 or 7 of those properties. Now, this is just rough numbers, guys, but what I'm trying to say is you need to make a lot of offers, because there's a lot of properties that you're viewing that you do want to buy them, but just for the right price. So you need to take your emotions completely out of it and just look at the deal for what it is. What price is it going to work for you at? What do you need to buy this property for to make it work for you? Now, of course, what I would recommend for you guys is to get into social housing and buy properties and lease them to social housing providers. That is one of the best strategies right now that's consistent. It's passive income. You know how much you're going to get every single month. The provider covers all the bills, all the maintenance. They give you a long lease on the property. If you do want to get into doing that, then you can click on the link in the description of this video, because that's exactly what I specialize in and it's what I teach my students how to do. BRR to social housing. But anyway, guys, let's get back to this. You need to do a volume of viewings. You need to make a ton of low ball offers. And then there's another strategy that you can go for, and it's something called direct-to-landlord. Now, some of the best deals I've ever done have been direct-to-landlord deals, which is basically where the property, it never hits Rightmove. And how you do this is you can go door knocking, you can deliver handwritten letters to properties that you want to buy. I've done that myself. It does work. Now, of course, it is a numbers game. You have to do a lot of, it's a graft, put it that way. You have to literally go out there and deliver handwritten notes. but you will get responses, guys. You can even get creative and put a note through someone's door saying, we missed you, you know, like a post-it note saying, we missed you, please give me a call. I'm in the area, give me a call. And then usually if a landlord sees that, they will actually give you a call, because, you know, if someone does that, it's just, you want to know who it is, like who's putting this letter through my door saying, call me. So that's a little tip you can do. Another thing you can do is you could just do mass letters. So you can go online, use ChatGPT, make a really good professional worded letter, and you can literally send them out in bulk. That will be easier for you to do on a practical level. However, I think your results are better if you do the handwritten note. That's what myself and my students do get the best results from. So direct to landlord is great because you're eliminating the middleman. The middleman in these situations is Rightmove, it's Zoopla, it's the agents. And there's no competition. When you go direct to landlord, maybe there's Jenny down the street or Jamie from the gym. They're both trying to buy that same property from the landlord, maybe. But a lot of the times, when you're doing direct to landlord, a lot of the times it's like an older person that, you know, you somehow stumble across, they reply to one of your handwritten notes or letters, or someone that you know that wants to sell their property, and you can just literally buy it from them. So do the letters, do the notes, speak with your network and see who do you know that wants to sell their property. Because as I said, it's about paying what you want to pay for the property. Now, a lot of these properties that are listed online, people think that you can't buy them for less than they're listed for, which is absolute BS. For example, I showed you earlier on in this video, I put it on the screen, a property that I purchased for I purchased the property for 85 grand, but it was worth 120 grand. So that's actually £35,000 below market value. And now I'm going to tell you how I did that one. So, quick story time. I found this property on Rightmove, and it was a desperate seller. So I was able to agree to buy the property for, I think roughly it was around 95 grand. So this property, not only was it 35 grand below market value, but it was also a social housing HMO property, which is a property that I purchased, renovated, and then leased to a social housing provider. But how I did this was I found out what areas the provider wanted. I found out how much the provider was going to pay in rent. And I found out that they wanted HMO properties, like 5 beds, 6 beds. So this property, I later converted it to a 6-bedroom HMO and leased it to the provider. But when I saw it online, it was actually in an area that was open with the provider, because where the providers want to take on properties, it does change all the time. So you have to be on top of that and make sure you're looking in the right areas. You can't just buy a property and then try and give it to a provider. Don't do that, because you could get stuck with a property that you can't give to a provider. So I found out the area, I looked on Rightmove in that area, I got the full address and I sent it to the social housing provider that I worked with, and they said, yes, we're happy to take it on. Then I entered into the negotiation stage with the agent for that property. And I basically said to them, look, I want to pay for this property. I think it was 95 or 100 grand. It was listed for 120, but it'd been on the markets for a few months. So it'd been online for like 3 or 4 months. It had some offers, but nothing like where they wanted it to be. So I had an offer agreed on this property for £105,000. I was very happy with that price. However, when I started to buy the property, something came up on the survey. And it was like a mining report that I got done. And it basically said that, I think it was 50 years ago, someone in the area made a claim for a mine, something like that. And it was actually 2 miles away. I can't remember the full details, but something flagged up. So then we used that as leverage to renegotiate the price. Now, the things that we did is we spoke with a solicitor, we spoke with the insurance company, and they said, yeah, we're happy to still give you insurance on the property. And the solicitor was like, look, I'm happy for you to carry on and buy this one. It could come up again if you want to sell the property, but because myself and my joint venture partner, we wanted to keep the property long term, we just thought we still want to buy it. So anyway, we went back to the agent and we said, look, we're only comfortable buying this property if we renegotiate the price, because now we found out this big issue and we're not comfortable buying it. unless you give us a massive reduction on the price. So anyway, went back and forth with the seller and the agent, and we ended up getting it agreed at 85 grand for the purchase price. So we did have it agreed at 105, and now we knocked off a further 20 grand off the price, and we got it for 85 grand, which meant, you know, it ended up being 35 grand BMV, below market value. So that's something you can do, is if you're buying a property and something flags up that you're not happy with, you can use that as leverage to, you know, knock off money on the price basically. Now, there is a massive advantage that you guys have got right now, because the timing of the market definitely plays a part in buying below market value. I'll give you an example. There was a time just after COVID where I would go on a viewing on a property, right? And there would be like 15 people queuing up to buy a rundown property in Nottinghamshire. And I was thinking, I've never seen it this busy, like so many buyers that wanted to buy properties. But you know what the case is now, guys? There's hardly any buyers. The sentiment is so low right now for buying properties in the UK. It's almost like people have forgotten how good of a vehicle property is of building wealth. So use that to your advantage. You know, there's way less buyers. That means you have a lot more desperate sellers. It's not hard to find a desperate seller right now, guys. A lot of these landlords, they are losing money because of the Renters' Rights Bill. And you want to use that to your advantage. So go and view tons of properties, make tons of lowball offers, go and send out your letters for your direct-to-landlord, and just put in the work, guys, because you will secure some very good deals by doing this. I know it seems simple, but it's honestly how you guys can do it. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped. If it has helped, then smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned because I've got tons more videos coming up for you guys.